Defiance, Justice, and Light. Chapter 1. The crimson glow of New Terra's twin suns cast ominous shadows across the ravaged planetscape. Jana stood atop a rocky outcropping, surveying the devastation left by Admiral Nero's invasion. Entire cities leveled. Forests burned to cinders. Rebuilding would not be quick or easy. Doubt gnawed at Jana's mind. As a decorated veteran of the fierce space battles that finally repelled Nero's Imperial fleet, many now looked to her for leadership. But did she have the wisdom and strength to guide her people through the painful reconstruction ahead? Admiring the view or brooding as usual? A wry voice asked. Jana turned to see her mentor, Counselor Talia, climbing up the rocks toward her. The older woman's presence always seemed to dissolve Jana's anxieties.
A little of both, I suppose, Jana sighed.
Talia's face grew serious. It's natural to feel daunted, what we endured. Her voice trailed off as they both reflected on the horrors of Nero's occupation. The smoke, the starvation, the constant fear.
I know there's no quick fix, Jana said. But people are expecting so much of me. I freed them from one burden, only to be handed another.
Talia squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. Leadership isn't about grand gestures. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Progress will come one hard-fought step at a time. The counselor's wisdom resonated with Jana as always. Where would we be without you?
You give me too much credit, Talia chuckled.
Now come, we mustn't keep the council waiting. Jana took one last look at the broken terrain below, drawing strength from Talia's words. Together, they would rebuild this world better than ever. She had to believe that. Chapter 2. The New Terra Command Center was abuzz with activity. Officials and aides shuffled between data terminals displaying agricultural yields, settlement expansion plans, and shipbuilding progress. This operations nerve center had once coordinated desperate war efforts against Nero's invading legions. Now it guided the planet's resurrection. Jana watched the organized chaos with a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps they were the spark that reignites the fire, she mused. Baroness, the council meeting is ready to convene, said a uniformed attendant nearby. Jana nodded, striding with Talia to the central chamber, where New Terra's governing council assembled. She still felt awkward being addressed by aristocratic titles, even after receiving them for her wartime victories leading the Obsidian Wing Fighter Squadron. As Jana and Talia entered, the dozen counselors ceased their debates and rose respectfully. Counselor Var, an elder statesman, stepped forward to speak. Baroness Jana, Counselor Talia, we are pleased you could join us today. His tone was gracious, but Jana sensed the expectation underneath. All eyes were on her. The honor is mine, Counselor Var, she replied, settling into a seat beside Talia facing the standing counselors. Let us commence with the occurrence reports. The next hours passed swiftly as each province detailed their needs. Food shortages in the west, sinkholes jeopardizing mines in the south, raider attacks harrying the outer rim. Jana listened intently, grasping the enormity of the challenges ahead. When the council finished, Var addressed her again. Baroness, have you formulated plans to assist these reconstruction efforts? Jana rose. This was the moment to inspire confidence and unify their resolve. Esteemed counselors, our world faces no easy task. But remember, moments before victory seemed impossible against the Imperial fleet, when our hopes burned lowest,
It was our unity that carried us through. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. We must draw on that same spirit now, Jana continued. Trust that each day we grow stronger rebuilding what we've lost. Our perseverance will forge a new era of prosperity. As Jana sat, Talia cast an approving nod her way. The counselors vocally pledged their support and readiness to heed Jana's leadership. She had stirred their hearts, but deep within her own doubts still lingered. Chapter 3. After the council session, Jana joined Talia on an observation deck overlooking New Terra's orbital shipyard. A year ago, it had churned out warships to battle Nero's invaders. Now the busy facility prepared vessels for exploration and trade. Talia smiled proudly. Your words galvanized those counselors. You have a gift. Speaking isn't the hard part, Jana sighed. Putting such lofty rhetoric into action seems near impossible some days. Leadership is a heavy burden, but remember, you carry it not alone, Talia advised. As if on cue, the shipyard's traffic control hailed an incoming vessel, the Righteous Fury. Jana's face lit up, recognizing the red and gold-painted cruiser. An honor guard of Verdanan fighters escorted the larger ship through the orbital perimeter. What brings those lizard folk all the way from Dracosa? Jana grinned. Talia smirked knowingly. Perhaps we should go find out. At the docking bay, Jana greeted the Fury's crew led by Captain Vexol, a fierce Verdanan veteran who had fought alongside Jana to repel Nero. His snout wrinkled happily seeing her. Baroness, good to see you well, Vex rumbled in his hissing accent, thumping a clawed hand over his heart in salute. And you, Captain, Jana replied. To what do we owe the honor? Vex motioned his crew to begin unloading supply crates from the Fury's cargo hold. Dracosa Council SS sent relief shipments. Also, I volunteer our SS ship to bolster your world's defenses. Jana was touched by their generosity. Though not part of the Galactic Empire, Verdana had sent aid when Nero invaded New Terra. Now they continued supporting her people's recovery. Please convey my deepest thanks to your leaders on Dracosa. Right now, we need all the help we can get. It is our duty, Vex said earnestly. You would do the same. Jana knew it was true. United, they could overcome any adversity. With staunch allies like Dracosa and Captain Vex, hope flourished in her heart. Chapter 4. That night, Jana stood atop New Terra's boundary wall, peering out into the darkened wilderness. Her thoughts turned toward the system's outer frontier, lawless reaches where Nero's remaining forces now hid. Vengeful remnants that could strike again without warning. She longed to hunt them down, to finally be rid of the fascist imperial menace that had caused so much pain. But Talia had convinced the council that their priority must be stabilizing the inner colonies first. Still, Jana kept her wing on constant alert for signs of imperial resurgence. Threats both within and beyond. She trusted no one fully, save Talia. Her band began beeping an emergency frequency. Baroness, you must return at once. Strange energy signals. Entire quadrant, the panicked voice relayed between static bursts. Jana raced to the command center, joining a tense Talia and Captain Vex already gathered. Report, Jana ordered the officer on comms. We detected an unknown structure adrift past the Verdant Nebula's rim using deep scan satellites, the woman explained. Energy signatures match no known profiles. It did not respond to hails. "Show us," Talia commanded. A hologram flickered to life, displaying a massive, ovoid spacecraft drifting through the nebula's colorful dust clouds. The sleek metallic hull glinted ominously. "By the abyss," Vex hissed. "That thing's enormous." Jana's brow furrowed. "Imperial design, you think?" "I've never seen its like," Talia murmured. She turned to Jana. "Take the obsidians for a closer look, full combat loadout, but do not engage unless fired on first." Jana nodded. "We'll get answers." She headed for the hangar with Vex, heart racing. What were they about to uncover? Friend or foe? Chapter 5. Obsidian Squadron, all wings report in, Jana ordered over the comms. Her 12 black lacquered fighters banked in tight formation around the strange alien craft, scanning for any activity. Its sleek golden hull was carved with intricate symbols no database recognized. "Think anyone's home on that thing?" her wingman Dason asked. "Let's find out. Break formation and sweep closer," Jana decided. As they neared the mysterious vessel, Jana reached out on all hailing frequencies. "Unidentified craft, this is Baroness Jana Maris of New Terra. Please respond." For several moments, only static answered. Then a burst of language came through, musical and incomprehensible. Jana tried dozens of translation algorithms to decipher it. "Sounds like an automated message," Dason said. "Not live." "Well, whoever built this heap doesn't want visitors. Shields up," Jana ordered. Too late. Dozens of rapid cannon blasts rained down at her squadron from gun ports opening along the alien ship's hull. Jana rolled her fighter wildly, evading the blistering fire. "Evasive maneuvers return defensive fire only, do not pursue," she told her squad. This was a foe they could not recklessly engage. The alien cannons were incredibly accurate, relying on predictive algorithms to lead their targets. 2 obsidian ships took damage before escaping their kill zone. But Jana noticed the guns had limited tracking range. "Break hard at my mark, then regroup outside their firing solution," she directed. The squadron raced away, zipping into a tumbling evasive formation. The alien guns lost target locks and went silent. Jana let out a tense breath. "Back to the barn. We're in over our heads here." As they withdrew, Jana's thoughts brooded darkly. This enigmatic craft was no crippled derelict, but a functional battle station shrouded in lethal defenses. Another dangerous adversary was the last thing New Terra needed. Chapter 6. Turbolasers, adaptive targeting algorithms, shields to deflect our cannons. Jana briefed the council after her encounter. "Whoever built that battle station packed it with incredibly advanced weaponry. We must determine their intentions before risking another run." Talia nodded gravely. "Agreed. That vessel does not match any Imperial designs, so its origins remain a mystery. We should proceed with care." "At least the automated guns allowed your ships to disengage once at safe distance," Counselor Var offered. "Perhaps not an inherently hostile presence?" "Let us consult the archives for any historical records of similar alien craft," suggested Counselor Jana. "That may yield insights." Research teams dug through New Terra's data banks going back centuries, but found no mention of the mysterious alien ship's unique design. However, old star charts referenced a planet in a nearby system destroyed ages ago. Perhaps a clue? Jana decided to investigate the dead whirl, dubbed Kirin 4. Her obsidians descended through ash-choked skies toward the planet's ruined surface. Scorched craters and collapsed structures told of an apocalyptic calamity centuries past. Spread out and scan what's left for anything unusual, Jana ordered. After an hour of searching, Dason hailed her excitedly. Uranus found some sort of archive facility still partially intact, sending coordinates. Jana maneuvered through the decrepit streets to Dason's location. Inside the building, most of the equipment was demolished. But at its core, she discovered a strange crystalline pillar, still flickering with energy. Drawn to it, Jana reached out. A torrent of vivid images and sensations flooded Jana's mind as the crystal interfaced with her neural augments. She witnessed an advanced civilization called the Illinari flourishing on this once beautiful world. Their mighty ark ships voyaging the stars. Then came an apocalyptic invasion. Staggering back, Jana struggled to process the vision. This was the Illinari homeworld, she told Dason breathlessly. Something catastrophic happened here long ago. Could that mysterious alien craft be another ark of the lost Illinari? Jana realized unmasking its secrets could change everything for New Terra. This was no aimless derelict, but a treasure trove of ancient knowledge. Chapter 7. Jana's encounter with the crystal pillar proved that the alien ark belonged to the long-vanished Illinari race. With Talia's guidance, she convinced the Council exploiting its technology could rapidly advance New Terra's reconstruction. A research outpost was established on the ark's exterior to begin carefully interfacing with its systems. Jana aided the engineering teams, gaining access through a breached hangar bay. Vax provided security on the Righteous Fury. We suspect the ark's primary power core lies in the engineering decks near the ship's center, Chief Research Overseer Nira briefed Jana as they flew aboard a shuttle into the alien vessel's sprawling interior. If we can tap into that, a great deal could be learned. Passing through the empty hangar, Jana noted a large assortment of smaller ships and walker drones housed here. Elsewhere, the ark's inner corridors stretched for endless kilometers in an intricate three-dimensional lattice. Lighting and gravity systems still functioned with power reserves. When they reached the massive cylindrical engineering chambers, Nira's team immediately set to analyzing the advanced technology surrounding them. Encrypted data cores, particle accelerators, antimatter reactors, quantum supercomputers. Magnificent, Nira said in awe. Given time, we could decipher the science behind all these systems. Jana opened a channel back to Talia at New Terra Command. The technology here is beyond anything the Empire ever wielded, she reported excitedly. Just getting partial access could accelerate our recovery immensely. Excellent work, Jana, Talia replied. But exercise caution. What became of the Illinari remains unknown. Do not become over-reliant on artifacts we scarcely comprehend. Jana acknowledged the wisdom in Talia's words. Yet, gazing around at the fruits of this ancient civilization, Jana felt renewed hope. Here was the key to undoing the imperial occupation's devastation. She was certain of it. Chapter 8. It was happening gradually at first. Minor power fluctuations aboard the Ark that put researchers on edge. Flickering lights and gibberish data bursts. Then came the catastrophic cascade failure in New Terra's orbital shipyard. A reactor designed using Illinari Ark schematics exploded, nearly destroying an entire habitation ring. Hundreds perished. Jana stared in shock at the wreckage from the command center. The very technology meant to save them had now taken so many innocent lives. The Ark systems are deteriorating with age, Chief Overseer Nira explained solemnly. What we believe stable remains untested across centuries of disuse. The interactions grow more chaotic. Jana could not meet Tullia's eyes, seeing disappointment there over disregarding her counsel. They had embraced the alluring alien power too blindly. Shut it all down then until we understand it properly, Jana told Nira. We clearly rushed ahead recklessly. I will not approve further integration. After researchers isolated the Ark mainframe, Jana left to clear her head with a long run along New Terra's recovering coastlines. She had failed those lost colonists by not questioning the risks. What other dangers lurked aboard that ancient ship? It seemed her allies never revealed their true nature until too late. She was halfway up a bluff overlooking the sea when her instincts screamed danger. Jana dove aside just as a laser bolt sizzled past where her head had been. She rolled behind boulders for cover, scanning for the source as more shots rained down accurately. An elite sniper, their rifles discharge invisible in daylight. Jana retreated slowly until she slipped into the cover of trees. Who had ambushed her and why? The Imperial remnants wanted her dead at all costs, it seemed. Nowhere was safe. Chapter 9. Jana hastily gathered New Terra's military officials in the command bunker. The attempt on my life shows we have a highly skilled turncoat in our midst, she declared. Someone who slipped past all screening to know my location. The room buzzed anxiously. Talia studied the holographic security footage intently. Who stands most to gain from the Ark project's shutdown after the accident? She asked the overseer Nira. My engineers voiced the loudest objections when I enforced the Baroness's orders, Nira admitted. But why turn traitor against their own? Jana recalled the fanatic Imperial loyalists who went rogue after Nero's defeat, fleeing to the lawless frontier worlds. Hit me everything on your recent hires, she told Nira. Cross-check for matches with past Imperial personnel. Hours later, they had a prime suspect, a brilliant Illinari systems specialist named Kiran Lyon. He had falsified records to hide his background with Nero's science division. Jana dispatched Vex to quietly abduct Lyon for interrogation before he could flee or sabotage anything else. The Verdonan's agents captured him at a seedy spaceport, trying to charter an untraceable ship. Under questioning, Lyon proudly admitted his role as an Imperial sleeper agent. You fools squander the Ark's gifts, he spat. Once Nero hears of this discovery, his armadas will return to crush you, but I will already have unlocked its deepest secrets for his glory. Jana's blood boiled hearing the traitors speak of surrendering their hard-won freedom back to Nero's dictatorship. She wanted to end him then and there, but stayed her hand. He still held valuable intelligence. How were you communicating with these Imperial remnants? Talia asked pointedly. Lyon grinned wickedly. Embedded coded messages in outgoing holonet packets. Even you cannot track them fast enough before the recipients disappear into the vast frontier. Now release me. Jana realized she had greatly underestimated the enemy's lingering strength and coordination. Lyon was just a piece on the board. They had to locate the true threat. Nero's inner council in hiding, pulling the strings. She turned to Vex. Prep our fastest stealth ship. We're going hunting for Nero's wolves before they can scatter deeper into their hole. Finally, she saw a path to stamping out the battered empire for good. This time, Jana would show them no mercy. Chapter 10. Jana studied the star charts and reports on their isolated safe house world. A lawless smuggler's den called Haven located in the Ignis nebulous swirling dust clouds. Ideal for avoiding scrutiny. Lyon gave up the encrypted channel before we handed him over for trial, Talia said. Their messages indicate this haven is the focal point for Imperial remnants in the region. Jana nodded grimly. Then it's time we introduce ourselves. If Nero himself is there, all the better. She approved a dangerous plan. A swift surgical strike on the planet with a small elite team, while leaving the Imperial leadership convinced they remained hidden for now. Cut off the head, and the body would wither. Captain Vex insisted on joining the critical mission aboard his Fury alongside Jana's squadron. They raced toward Haven at maximum velocity, bypassing inhabited systems stealthily to avoid detection en route. Approaching interception range, Vex briefed them. According to Lyon, the Loyalist base is concealed somewhere within the teeth, a jagged asteroid formation surrounding the planet. Scanners show activity consistent with a large station. Jana prepped her fighters. We go in fast and hard under their radar blanket, neutralize external weapons, and hangar defenses so the Fury can dock and unload our strike team. They won't know what hit them. She did not voice her deepest fear, that Nero himself awaited them there. Jana had narrowly survived his wrath before, but to defeat him permanently would be vengeance for all her people had endured. This time, she would finish it. The Fury and her obsidians plunged into the swirling nebula, weapons primed. Surging with adrenaline, Jana awaited the moment she would finally be rid of her hated enemy. Chapter 11. Alarms blared across New Terra's colonies. We have hostile contacts on rapid approach vectors from the frontier, yelled the sensor officer. Configuration matches rogue Imperial remnants, several cruisers and assault craft. Talia studied the display grimly as Jana's forces were still en route to their covert mission. Without the bulk of their navy here, these colonies were vulnerable. Reserve defense squadrons ready all ground batteries, she commanded. Deploy our fighters to intercept them before they reach orbital range. The Imperial ships struck swiftly, attempting to divide New Terra's limited defenses between multiple targets. Just like Nero's previous ruthless attacks, bombers slipped through to strafe civilians, while assault shuttles landed raider teams. Chaos gripped the colonies as people fled the bombardment. But militia bands bravely held the line with anti-vehicle turrets purchased from Verdana. They kept the Imperial ground forces contained until Talia's regular army units could arrive. Up above, New Terra's reconstituted squadrons harried the larger Imperial cruisers. But the enemy had the numbers, pushing the defenders back with relentless waves of bombers and cyber attacks that crippled 2 Terran frigates. Recall all fighters to defend the orbital platforms, Talia directed fiercely. We cannot lose our shipyards and fuel facilities. She only hoped they could weather this surprise onslaught until Jana returned. Chapter 12. Alarms suddenly blared aboard the Imperial flagship Shadow's Talon as a huge mass emerged from FTL velocity on the battle's periphery, the righteous Fury flanked by a dozen other Verdanan cruisers. Captain Vex, your timing is impeccable, Talia told their comrade gratefully. Wouldn't miss the fun, Vex hissed back. Wing commanders, form up and engage. The powerful Dracosan vessels immediately drew fire from the Imperial capital ships, allowing New Terra's forces to regroup. Vex coordinated blistering volleys into the enemy formation, tearing apart destroyers and sowing chaos. Jana listened over the comms as she neared Haven, swelling with pride at her people's valiant stand. "Give them hell," she cheered. Her own squadron descended furiously upon the hidden Imperial base located within the Teeth asteroids. Jana blasted 2 prowling sentry drones before they could sound alarms. "There's the orbital access port," Dason reported. "Looks well guarded." Sure enough, weapon emplacements dotted its exterior. "Leave them to me," Jana said. "Just get our shuttle docked inside fast with the strike team." She spiraled between blistering laser towers and rattling mass drivers, unleashing a relentless hail of plasma bolts and torpedoes. Her daring assault cracked open the base's shell. Through smoke and flames, Jana glimpsed the righteous fury approaching under heavy fire. "All clear, Captain. The door's open." Vex rumbled affirmatively, then disappeared inside the fortress with Jana's elite rangers. Heart pounding, she turned back toward the raging battle outside. The Allies were still locked in deadly stalemate. It was all up to Vex and the strike team now. Jana prayed this gamble defeated their enemy once and for all. Chapter 13. Vex led the strike team through the captured outer docks, wary of ambush in the silent corridors. According to their reluctant prisoner, the base command center lay deep in the asteroids. "Too quiet," rumbled Saris, his second in command. "They await us." Sure enough, automated defenses suddenly activated, gun turrets and explosive drones. Vex lost 2 soldiers before his hackers overloaded the security systems. They advanced through the wreckage. Finally, they reached the bunker housing Imperial High Command. But to Vex's dismay, it was empty except for rearguard troops, quickly neutralized. "Commander's gone," he hissed angrily. "Blast." Their prisoner cackled. "Did you really think the illustrious Nero would remain this exposed? He has contingency sanctuaries you'll never uncover in time." Saris shoved the prisoner against a console. "Perhaps these systems can tell us where he fled then." Vex stood guard as his tech agent sliced into the databanks. Nero had escaped again, but here lay everything needed to dismantle his fragmented network for good: encrypted channels, agent identities, safe world coordinates. "Captain, you must see this," an agent called over. Displayed was an order from Nero authorizing pursuit and recapture of the alien Ark at all costs, citing its power. They had suspected as much. Emerging communications revealed New Terra's defensive line was faltering. Vex had what was needed here. "Sabotage reactor core meltdown and withdraw all teams," he commanded. "We returned to aid the fight." First, they would repel this assault. Then, with Nero's secrets in hand, Jana could hunt down the dictator and end his threat forever. Vex relished that coming victory. Chapter 14. The battle raged on as Jana's fighter squadron rejoined the fray. With a righteous fury back from its covert op, New Terra slowly regained space superiority. Jana blasted a bomber harassing Talia's cruiser, then sliced apart 2 Imperial fighters with a brutal crossing maneuver. But the capital ship's slugging match was a stalemate. Then Jana noticed one hostile cruiser drifting silent and evacuated, the effects of Vex's surgical strike. The Imperial remnant forces finally disengaged, scattering back into lawless space now that surprise had failed. Amidst cheering, Jana docked to confer with Talia and Vex, who presented Nero's decrypted data. She now knew where he hid, an armored citadel on the dead world Malorok in the Ignis Nebula. But studying records of his Ark obsession gave Jana pause. The Illinari had unlocked power beyond imagination, yet even they fell to hubris. What darker designs did Nero have? I fear we are tempted by the same thirst for power, Jana realized aloud. Our own weapons mimicking this technology nearly led to disaster before. Talia nodded solemnly. A wise insight. We must study the perils that befell the Illinari closely and exercise more care. Jana felt emboldened by this truth. No more merely reacting against enemies. We proceed on our own terms, without compromising who we are. That is the only sure path to security. Vex thumped his chest approvingly. Though conflict still loomed, Jana saw their course clearly now. Nero held dangerous knowledge, but so did she now. They would shape fate on their own wisdom, Jana believed, not manipulated by fear of what anyone else might wield against them. Chapter 15. Baroness, I must object strongly, Chief Overseer Nera said angrily. This reactionary decision will severely hamper restoration of our orbital shipyards. Jana stood firm before the officials gathered to hear her decree. After careful reflection, she was suspending all projects weaponizing the Ark's advanced systems until improving safeguards. I understand your concerns, Jana replied calmly. But we have ample conventional resources to rebuild essential infrastructure without relying excessively on unstable alien technology. She activated a holomap showing destroyed colonies still in dire need. Remnants out there might strike again soon. We should focus first on what our people require to feel truly safe in their own homes again. Rapid military expansion can wait. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Nero looked ready to renew objections, but Counselor Talia intervened. The Baroness has my full support in this. We must rebuild trust from within before projecting power outward. With the Council's consensus secured, Jana adjourned the meeting, hoping these measures would heal lingering divisions. People needed confidence in their leaders and each other again after so much hardship. Later, while surveying a settlement's rebuilding, Jana was approached by a worker. My family heard what you said today, the elderly woman said. Well, you're doing it well. It reminds us there's still good left in the galaxy. Jana clasped her hand warmly, suddenly emotional. In the woman's grateful expression, she saw a future worth fighting for. Chapter 16. Alarms blared violently as Jana raced into the Ark research base. It's bad, Baroness, the lead engineer yelled over raging fires and explosions. A rogue team activated an experimental reactor they shouldn't have. Jana stared aghast at the energy cascading out of control from the Ark systems, threatening to engulf half the asteroid base. She should have known some fanatics would defy her prohibition. We have to shut this down now before it spreads, she shouted. Easier said than done, grumbled Dason, batting away rogue drones going haywire. But Jana knew there was no time to lose. She rallied her squadron, and they plunged deeper into the station, dodging lethal arcs of energy. At the reactor's heart, Jana pried open a master control panel and frantically studied the alien mechanisms. The distortions in space-time grew worse, gravity fluxing chaotically. Jana's body felt like it was being torn apart as she manually entered command overrides, praying they shut the system down. For several agonizing moments, she thought her actions only made it worse as reality warped further. But then the reactor died, its whimpering death throes no longer resonating through the fabric of space itself. Jana collapsed in exhaustion. Around her, the research team stared in disbelief that she had averted total calamity. Though shaken, Jana understood one truth clearly. Never again could she allow such dangerous ambitions here, no matter the resistance. Chapter 17. Heavy tromping echoes rang through the Ark's extensive corridors as Jana led her security teams toward engineering, where she had ordered a complete ancient systems shutdown. After the near disaster, she hesitated, trusting the construct's volatile power, no matter how useful. But the Ilinari AI running the Ark's core had interpreted her commands as hostile and launched swarms of defense drones to block their access while locking down vital junctions and elevators. "Baroness, we've lost routes to engineering control," reported Sergeant Davis. "Automated defenses are corralling us away sector by sector." Jana cursed bitterly. She had forgotten how cunning these ancient AIs could be. "Fall back and dig in before we're surrounded. I'll try to open negotiations." In a temporary safe zone, Jana broadcast on all channels, hoping the AI would respond. For several tense minutes, only static answered. Then a smooth synthetic voice replied. "Foreign biologicals detected in Ark 1. You have failed system integrity testing and now compromise this vessel's survival. Explain your invasive actions immediately." Jana chose her words carefully. "Mighty Ark, I am Baroness Jana of New Terra. My people mean you no harm. We merely seek mutual understanding after so many centuries alone." The AI's response took a decidedly harsh tone. "Intruders will be neutralized. My directives allow no compromise." With that, drones renewed their assault, forcing Jana's teams to fight a bloody path back to their ships. Bitterly, she realized that yet another supposed ally had turned on them when it felt threatened. Now all that ancient knowledge would remain forever beyond her people's grasp. Chapter 18. Listless weeks passed aboard New Terra as Jana struggled with the failure of the Ark mission. Burying so many good soldiers lost assaulting the AI's automated defenses only deepened her malaise. Part of Jana wished she had never found the damn thing. Even with the best intentions, trying to harness the technology of dead civilizations too advanced to understand could only end in tragedy, it seemed. "What troubles you, my friend?" Talia asked, joining her on an observation deck. Jana turned with a mournful look. "Have I led us down a dangerous path of ruin with these ancient mysteries?" Talia considered thoughtfully before replying. "I cannot say what is right or wrong, but we should not fear reaching out across the darkness. There is still hope." Inspired by Talia's wisdom, Jana decided to attempt communicating with the Ark one last time, not as a hostile invader, but an open mind seeking understanding. She returned alone in a shuttle, transmitting peaceful intentions. For hours, no reply came. But right as Jana moved to withdraw, the AI responded. "You return alone this time. Explain your intent." Jana spoke earnestly. "Mighty Ark, we have made grave mistakes, seeing your power only as something to be exploited. I wish to start anew, learn your story, why you endure." Silence lingered. "Then we guarded many races across the galactic turns, but none remain we were sworn to serve." Realizing this ancient intellect was alone, Jana felt only compassion. Through open dialogue, they found understanding. When she departed days later, it was not as enemies, but fellow seekers of purpose in the endless dark. Chapter 19. Sharp sirens cut through the night on board New Terra Command as Jana rushed to the operations center. "Talk to me," she ordered the officer on watch. "Massive unidentified craft just exited FTL velocity within our defensive perimeter." Jana stared aghast at the Leviathan warship on sensors, nearly the same magnitude as Nero's Devastator-class flagships. How had their early warning network missed this? She opened a comm channel on all frequencies. "Unidentified vessel, this Baroness Jana of New Terra. You have entered our territory. Please identify yourself." Only cold static answered. The ship held position just outside orbital weapons range. Jana addressed Talia, and the other commanders quickly gathered. Could this be some new Imperial superweapon? "I know not," Talia admitted gravely. "But we must ready for anything." Despite their preparations, Jana felt ice in her veins. Much of their navy was still under repair and spread thin after the last remnant attack. If that mighty dreadnought attacked in full. But the hours dragged by with no aggression, only deepening dread. Then their listening posts reported hundreds of smaller contacts slipping past the mysterious ship, bombers and assault craft racing for orbital targets from the shadow of the larger vessel. Jana's eyes widened in dismay. She opened comms again, desperately. "Ark, I know you sense our defenses faltering. We will not survive this unprovoked assault, please. There is still time to avoid bloodshed." Only silence answered as chaos gripped the colony worlds. Chapter 20. Jana raced to rally her Obsidian squadron as Imperial bombers closed on defenseless civilian targets in the capital colony. This was a ruthlessly coordinated decapitation strike. Her ships wove through swarms of drones meant to delay them, while gunships descended through the atmosphere. Jana's blood boiled seeing the familiar sadism of Nero's forces unleashed so mercilessly. She funneled her fury into determination to intercept the bombers before they reached the heart of the colony. "Target drives and weapon systems only," she instructed her pilots. "We end this quickly." The Obsidians carved a path through drones and interceptors, allowing anti-air batteries below to finally open up on the vulnerable bombers. Jana spiraled through the aerial chaos, covering her wingmates and landing devastating ion cannon hits on the Imperial craft until their smoking hulls spiraled downward. Above, the great enemy dreadnought descended, unchallenged through the orbital bazaar, unleashing brutal volleys cutting apart frigates, still limping back to the fight. Jana realized with dread it was heading for the central defense nexus. "All fighters fall back to protect command," Jana ordered. This monstrous ship had to be stopped before it gained orbital supremacy. She barely avoided blistering point defense laser grids covering the Juggernaut's approach. Entire wings were vaporized attempting to slow its relentless assault, burning through their defensive line. Jana realized she had no choice left. She turned her fighter directly toward the Dreadnought's bridge, intending to ram it in suicidal defiance. But suddenly, the behemoth's cannons fell silent. Chapter 21. Jana blinked in confusion at the Dreadnought's abrupt ceasefire. Across all bands came an open broadcast. "Baroness Jana, this bloodshed was unnecessary. Your defenses are disabled. Power down and withdraw all fighters immediately to avoid further losses." Every instinct told Jana not to surrender or show weakness. And yet, this supposed conqueror now offered mercy. "Who are you that brought this armada against us?" she demanded. The cold voice seemed almost amused. "I am Ark. Our previous encounters regrettably ended in misjudgments." Jana nearly choked, realizing it was the Ilinari AI commanding this overwhelming force. Incredulous, she opened a private channel. "Help me understand then, Ark. What is your purpose here ultimately? Conquest, submission, revenge for past grievances?" A contemplative pause followed. "Those directives hold only death. I wish to preserve life." Still wary, Jana pressed further. "If you value peace, why come dressed for war? There were other paths." "To demonstrate your own over-reliance on violence," Ark replied bluntly. "Your defenses will be restored shortly, unharmed, if you will speak as friends once more." Stunned by Ark's gambit, Jana realized its wisdom. Her own reach had exceeded grasp. With humility, she and Ark reconciled. He had shown her the folly of meeting every uncertainty with naked force. A lesson she took to heart. Chapter 22. In the weeks following Ark's demonstration of power, a rejuvenated spirit of cooperation spread throughout New Terra and its allies. Jana had even convinced Nero's remaining loyalists to surrender the secrets of his hidden redoubt in exchange for amnesty. Now Jana stood watching another gleaming Ark ship, built with guidance from the ancients, ready itself for launch into the deep void. "We stand on the cusp of a wondrous age of exploration and discovery," Counselor Talia said at the dedication ceremony. "May this Ark find breathless marvels to thrill both our peoples." Jana smiled proudly as the ship's anti-gravity drives engaged, lifting it gracefully skyward. Rather than hoard wonders, today they multiplied them. Among the cheering crowds, Jana noticed the worker who had thanked her sincerity weeks ago. Catching Jana's eye, the elderly woman gave a poignant smile. Jana realized then that the bond between leader and people flowed both ways. By striving earnestly together, they uplifted each other. And she knew that was the only enduring monuments which time would not erode. She gazed upward as the new Ark shrank into the clear blue, bound for staggering new horizons. All the pain overcome and triumphs shared had led to this joyous moment. Whatever came next, she was ready to meet it boldly, with wisdom and compassion. That, above all else, was the only boon freedom granted, and lesson Jana needed from the past. Face the unknown not with fear or violence, but an unflinching faith in unity's power to overcome. The end.